By now, you've heard Tom Brady's announcement that he's going to retire. And it was in the simplest form possible. Just him, his own cell phone, looked like on the beach, somewhere in South Florida. I think it's actually Miami. There's been lots of rumors that he's relocating to a home he has in Miami. Giselle has that one. He was seen looking for touring a school for his kids in Miami. Been long rumored that's why they went to Tampa as close to Miami. That allowed him to fly anywhere. It's a city where Giselle is, in fact, comfortable. We know they're not together. We'll get to the divorce and how much that played a factor upcoming. But by now you know Tom Brady's retiring. And I actually thought that, and I'll give credit where it's due, I actually thought that ESPN lucked into this thing and was able to have the perfect crew on First Take. Why? And you're like, wait a second. First Take. You go off on Stephen A sometimes. Sometimes when he has an erratic take or when whoever's debating doesn't know what they're talking about, we'll call him on it. We'll do the same on any show. It's the beauty of what we're able to do here. But he had Mike Francesa on. Stephen A. had Mike Francesa on for First Take. Mike Francesa and the dog, right? That's Christopher Russo. It used to be Mike and the dog. And the reason that I speak with respect towards Russo and Francesa is, hey, none of us would be here doing what we do if not for what those guys created in sports radio. Interactive, hot takes, debate, all wrapped into one, right? Francesa and Russo, Mike and the dog, legends in the industry, the very first to make it big, and they were doing hot takes and debate before anybody was doing hot takes and debate. They just were. Francesa said that he's the most successful quarterback of all time. And he was putting it into context. That, look, the best regular season quarterback was Peyton Manning. The best postseason or Super Bowl quarterback is Joe Montana. And he's had, you want to call it the best career, the most successful career, which, by the way, is something that I've said for years. And I do think that part of the confidence, part of the preparation, part of all the little things that have allowed him to win are part of what makes a quarterback. And so I've always thought that the best player of the position that I've ever seen in terms of checking all the boxes was Aaron Rodgers, right? Because he had the athleticism and arm strength of John Elway. Like John Elway had what you see Pat Mahomes doing, or honestly, like I think Justin Herbert reminds me a ton of John Elway. Because John Elway's teams weren't great, but he got him to the Super Bowl, and then they got blown out the first couple Super Bowls. And then late in his career, he won 2, but he was more of a figurehead. It was a running team and a great defensive team, and occasionally he would make a big play. But John Elway had an immense amount of talent. I think that Aaron Rodgers had that, greater accuracy. He was also, for a long time, incredibly well-liked, considering who he replaced, how he handled himself. Late here in his career, he's been a bit divisive. You know, not just with the media, but I'm sure in his locker room with some of the things he said and some of the ways in which he's handled himself, and that's not great quarterbacking. But in terms of checking all the boxes for intelligence, skill, accuracy, foot speed, ability to make plays in, out of the pocket, you got to have the hand size, the arm angles, all that stuff. Like Aaron Rodgers checked every box. Now, look, I'm not diminishing Mahomes, who we'll see a week from Sunday. And I said, going back 2 months ago, hey, we need to start at least factoring him into any of these discussions for all-time greats because he's got to be right there. I don't know why we have to wait 10 more years when the first 5 years have been unreal how good he is. But let's just deal with the guys who have played and assume that Aaron Rodgers plays a year, 2 more years. Aaron Rodgers has checked every box, and he's performed well in the biggest of games. Right. Peyton Manning, when he retired, I know I was doing the same job. Most football people are like, that's the best pure quarterback. Like, think of what he was able to do without great arm strength. You know, and just understanding defenses, understanding the game, they came up short in the playoffs because it got a lot more physical and timing routes didn't work. And because he wasn't an athlete who could make plays with his feet or throw guys open, sometimes they came up short. They were built to play in the dome with the lead, pin your ears back, and they struggled at times, especially against the Patriots. But Peyton was considered the iconic quarterback when he retired. And what people have forgotten is that Tom Brady, when he was actually at his physical best and mentally at his best as well, they didn't win a Super Bowl for a decade, which actually proves how many other things have to go in your favor in order to win it that has nothing to do with you. But can I point out the part of Tom Brady, which, now look, I didn't watch all of First Take. I didn't watch all of Undisputed. I didn't listen to all of Dan Patrick's show or all of Colin's show. But I have yet to hear anybody say this. The business model that the Patriots followed, whoever was able to convince Brady, or whether it was Brady's idea, however it worked, I don't know. Tom Brady was never the highest paid player in the National Football League. And if you want to say, well, that speaks to, hold on. Tom Brady had 50 touchdown passes in a year. He had the only undefeated regular season since the 72 Dolphins. Did you guys know that? By the way, they didn't win the Super Bowl that year. The next year when that team was back, he tore his ACL. They still won 11 games to make the playoffs. Again, height of his powers, best team he ever had, didn't win a Super Bowl, shows that there's some luck and other team factors that have to take place. But what we're seeing in football now, where teams have to decide, do I go all in on a quarterback on a second contract, knowing that it's going to hurt the rest of my roster, or do I go with a quarterback on a rookie deal, like the Eagles, like the Niners? I mean, go through the laundry list of what the Ravens have been able to do up until this year. He's in the fifth-year option. What the Browns were able to do in rebuilding their team. You go and look, and what the window that the Chargers have, how long does that last with Justin Herbert? Right? That window of when you have, do you go with a rookie quarterback? I mean, look, the reason that the Seahawks were able to build an unbelievable defense around Russell Wilson was, I mean, he was a third-round pick. He didn't make any money for a couple years. Dak Prescott, same with the Cowboys. They had an incredible roster because he wasn't making anything. Now he's making a bunch of money, and we got to get rid of somebody, Amari Cooper. Guess what they could have used when they lost in the playoffs? Amari Cooper. Tom Brady didn't have that problem. The Patriots still parted ways with older players, but they always had more money to play with because their quarterback wasn't so selfish and self-centered that he didn't see the long game. It's like Aaron Rodgers could have done this with Green Bay. Hey, you don't like your surrounding talent? You don't think you have a good enough tight end? You want a veteran wide receiver? You know what you could have done? You could have renegotiated a contract where you made $20 million. Instead, you signed one that you made $53 million. No one's saying you don't have the ability. You haven't earned it. But the way that this sport is structured is there's one pile of money. It's a pie. And the bigger the pie you take, the less pie there is for everybody else. I don't know if it was Tom. I don't know if it was Don Yee, his agent. I don't know if it was Bill Belichick. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm going to give credit to Tom Brady because at the end of the day, he's in charge of his own career. He makes the call. Accept, don't accept contract offers. He took less money for years upon years upon years, even when he went to Tampa. Like, if Aaron Rodgers gets traded, do you think he's taking a penny less than he's owed to go to play for the Jets, the Raiders, Of course not. He's in the LeBron category with took care of his body above and beyond what anybody else took care of his body, so his career was longer. That should be mentioned. He was, of course, a sixth-round pick. It has to be mentioned he played for arguably the greatest coach of any generation. And I know Andy Reid's doing incredible things. Bill Belichick had 20 years of dominance, but that 20 years of dominance was greatly helped out by the fact that his quarterback never took top dollar. When you tell your kids your grandkids, when you tell your friends about Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II, and you see him pop up on Fox's coverage of the Super Bowl, I don't know if he'll be in the booth or they'll do something, but damn, they got him under contract. Do you really think a 7-time Super Bowl champion who's under contract with Fox is not going to be on the game? Of course he is. When you see Tom Brady pop up on Fox's coverage of the Super Bowl, and people start to talk about the all-time greats, and Rob Parker says luckiest of all time, other people say greatest of all time, Mike Francesa says most successful of all time, overall, best career of all time, just remember that the number one thing, okay, that allowed him to be successful was the fact that he never played on a bad team. They were in the AFC East. That division has been a mess. Right? It's fair. It was a ready-made Super Bowl caliber team when he took over for Drew Bledsoe. Also fair. But managing his own salary, sacrificing his own ego, never being a guy that took top dollar, that's as important as taking care of your body, as delivering the football on time, as finding an offensive coordinator who fits with you, as playing for a great coach. If you don't have dudes around you, it don't matter. It doesn't matter. And that's the part that Tom Brady should probably get the most credit for, because we live in a world where, hey, if you respect me, you pay me. That's what you hear from people. If you respect me, it's not about the money, it's about respect. But if you play the long game, it's like Aaron Rodgers, $53 million or $20 million. Dude, you can't spend that money if you tried. Unless you took it all in Bitcoin, thought you outsmarted the world, instead of just taking it in dollar bills like the rest of the world. Oh, you lose $10 million in taxes. Okay, you got $10 million a year. You can't live on that? You know, you put it in something smart, 10% interest without lifting a finger. That's $1 million a year. You can't live on that after making $150, $200 million the rest of your career? Of course you can. Everyone says they want to win. Okay? Everyone says they want to win. There is not a quarterback who's ever played football that doesn't want to win. But wanting to win means, are you willing to not drink beer in the season? Eat better than anybody else? Get your rest? Are you willing to take a little less money? Are you willing to get dog cussed in films? Are you willing to sacrifice everything? Success, and oftentimes, is not just about confidence and belief and preparation. It's also about sacrifice. He sacrificed time with his family. He sacrificed what he ate, how he took care of himself. He sacrificed his ego in film sessions. And he sacrificed financially, which, tell me somebody who's been willing to do that at his level. Doesn't happen. That's what you should remember about Tom Brady.